ADHD a real disorder? And in case you don't know what ADHD stands for, it stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. And some words to describe that would be hyperactivity, forgetfulness, inattention, distractedness, disorganization. So the research I did for my topic discussed a lot about the symptoms and how to be diagnosed and different treatments for this disorder. And this relates to psychology because psychology studies how the mind works and how it develops, and ADHD is a really brain-based disorder, so it helps. So that's like how it relates to psychology, and we studied this in chapter 7 because that was developmental psychology, and that talked about how your brain develops throughout your life, and also in chapter 8 because that's personality, and it goes along with personality because ADHD affects your personality. It wasn't exactly like stated ADHD in the textbook, but those 2 chapters put a lot of background information towards the disorder. And some background information about ADHD is it's a combination of problems such as hyperactivity, not being able to pay attention during class, and sometimes it even has impulsive behavior that can be a side effect of it too. And children with ADHD might also struggle with other problems such as like low self-esteem or like trouble with relationships with their peers, or even like problems at home or problems in school even. And some people never outgrow their ADHD, but it usually will lessen with age. It's like most prevalent in adolescence, but a lot of the times it'll go on to adulthood. And treatments can't really cure ADHD, but they can help lessen the symptoms. And usually the treatment involves different medications and interventions with specialists at a healthcare provider. And the first side to this argument is ADHD is a real disorder. So some information that supports that would be nearly every medical, psychological, and educational organization in the United States included that ADHD is a real brain-based disorder. And basically that just means like widely throughout the United States of healthcare providers it is known to be a disorder, and most healthcare providers do consider it a real disorder. And it affects people of all ages, not just adolescents. It's thought that most cases are in adolescence, but it actually does continue into adulthood. And there's a lot of subdivisions of this disorder, so that might be why it seems like a lot of people do have it and that it is really common, but there are a lot of subdivisions of it. And other medical conditions usually do occur with ADHD. Like a lot of people who have ADHD will also show symptoms of other behavioral disorders such as like anxiety or depression, and they'll usually show symptoms of those too as well. Many people believe that it is a real disorder because diagnosing ADHD is a long process and it's very pervasive and complex. It's not just like you can go to a doctor and say, oh, I had a test last week and I had trouble paying attention studying for it. Like it's more than just that. Like you have to show symptoms for at least 6 months. You have to be actually diagnosed by a doctor, and they know what they're doing, so they're not just gonna say, oh, I'll prescribe you with medicine. Like it's a very complex problem. You have to show several of the symptoms for a long time, and it's like complex. And my last point of this being a real disorder would be that it's highly genetic and it's brain-based, and many background factors do go with having this disorder, such as like your gender or your family history or your even environmental toxins can make it happen. And just like your physical brain condition, if there's a picture of a normal brain as opposed to a picture of a person with ADHD. The second side arguing the topic would be ADHD is not a real disorder, and throughout my research I read that a lot of the times it's depicted as a description of symptoms rather than an actual disorder, because lots of people do show symptoms throughout their life of ADHD. They don't just, like a lot of people in their daily life show symptoms, but even if they don't actually have the disorder. So that's really common. And it causes long-term negative effects on an individual, and it can cause someone to be dependent on drugs if like they're diagnosed at a young age and they're put on drugs at a young age, and that could negatively affect them later in life, make them drug dependent. And it can be a result of bad parenting, because as you all know, like the way you're raised affects your character and how you like show yourself to the world. So if you're raised bad, then that could have a negative effect, and usually bad parenting goes with you until adulthood. Lots of people do claim to have ADHD, even if they don't actually are diagnosed with it. That's really common in kids to say, oh, I think I have ADHD because I have trouble paying attention, but it goes a lot deeper than that. It's more than just not being able to pay attention. Like, there's many factors that go into it, and it's not as easily diagnosed as many may think, and no single test can diagnose ADHD. Licensed health professionals have to diagnose you, and it's like a long process to do that. They have to assess your environment and the way you grow up and the people around you. There's just lots of factors that go into it, and it's believed that it could be all in your head, but and it could be an excuse to be prescribed drugs because it is a disorder that could be more easily diagnosed than other mental disorders. And it's usually treated with different doses of amphetamines, and Adderall is really common to treat it. And on a college campus, like, it's really common for people to be prescribed Adderall here because at college you're obviously studying and you have to pay attention, so it's very common here. Where I stand, before I started doing research, I believed that ADHD was a real disorder, and I still think that it is a real disorder. Like, my research didn't really change my mind that much. And I believe this because people all over the world suffer from this disorder, and I personally know people who do suffer from this disorder, and I believe that it is more than just like in their head. Like, I think that it's I think it goes deeper than that, and I think it's actually in their mind. Like, I think that it's a real thing. And I don't think it would be as widely common in students if it wasn't a real thing. And there's lots of evidence, as I stated earlier, that it points to being a real disorder. I don't think healthcare providers would be able to diagnose you with medication if it wasn't a real disorder. And doctors are very educated people, and I don't think that they would just give out medication for something that isn't an actual brain-based disorder that doesn't like affect you in your daily life.